What's up, guys? Welcome to episode number 3 of the Marketing Life podcast. I'm super excited. Today, our special guest, I used to work with her. Her name's Nicole, and she's going over some SEO tips, some Instagram tips, some Facebook funnel tips, and she talks a lot about how important communication is with your clients. So let's dive in. Okay, guys, let's get started here. So we got Nicole on the show today. So Nicole, give us a little backstory on how you got yourself into marketing.
Okay, well, how I got myself into marketing is that I had a friend that works at the company that I'm at now, and he just reached out to me one day and asked if I wanted a job. And I had like a very typical like college desk job, and I hated it. So I was like, yes, please, I would love a new job. And then I never heard from him again. And I was like, hey, I want this job, but if I can't have this job, then let me come in and intern for you. During the summer, I had quit my desk job because it sucked. So I was like, let me come in during the summer and intern for you, and then I will learn all of these skills, and you can either hire me at the end of it if you think I'm good enough, or I can take them elsewhere and turn it into more of a career. And so I came in a couple of times and learned a few things from him, and then he eventually left the company. And so that kind of just left me back with no job. And then the boss of the company was like, hey, give me that girl's phone number that's been doing all of your work for the last, month or two. And so then he reached out to me, and I've now been with that company for 4 years. So that's how I started. It was all just kind of a fluke.
Gotcha. That's awesome. So basically what you're saying is you had no education in marketing, correct?
Oh, none. Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you did to learn these skill sets to learn digital marketing? What were you doing out there?
Well, our company is pretty like baptism by fire. It's like, you go figure it out yourself. So, I obviously had a little bit of guidance of like set up analytics. I was told what to do. I just didn't know how to do any of it. So it was all just learning on the job of like Googling how to set up analytics. It was like create a Facebook campaign. And then it was me just figuring out how to set up a Facebook campaign. And so it was all trial by error for the most part. And yeah.
No, that's awesome. So basically you had no education, you started learning these things, but now you're like an expert. So like, what are some of your expertise in?
Expert's a loaded word, I think, because I think this industry changes so often that I constantly feel like I don't know anything, and I'm always relearning things, especially with all of the updates to all of the platforms that we constantly use. It's like you just have to relearn everything all the time, or you just have to stay on top of everything. But I think I'm the most proficient in SEO and content writing, and then like social media growth. I don't want to necessarily say like branding or anything like that, but like growing an Instagram, I'm pretty decent at.
Gotcha. That's awesome. So what are some of the tips, like as far as like SEO goes, that you feel like our audience needs to know about? Like some of the simple tips and tricks to make sure that your SEO is performing and you're doing the right things.
I mean, SEO is pretty simple when you like break it down. I mean, you need to know what your keyword is. You need to, use the keyword like planner tools that are out there. Neil Patel has one, AdWords has one. Find the keywords that are relevant to your industry, that are low competition, but high traffic search. And then, make sure that that's in your headline, make sub headlines that include it, put that in your actual copy of your blog or your web page. Make sure that you have anywhere between 500 and 1,500 word articles. 1,500 perform the best. But if you can only pump one of those out once a month, that's fine. But, just try to create good content that is, a bit longer than your average, like 300 word blog that nobody really cares for. Nobody's really reading. Google isn't really, caring to index it or anything. And then make sure that you're your meta description is in there. Make sure that your images are saved with that keyword, and then include like variations of that keyword in the copy. Don't just put that exact keyword, switch up the words a little bit and just kind of have a variation of it throughout that. It's pretty cut and dry with SEO, but people still seem to mess it up. And I think it's because people don't spend enough time on it. I mean, I'm guilty of it as well, where I will just write out an article and throw it up there real quick, and I don't give it the proper attention that it needs. But if you spend even just an extra 10 minutes on your article, I mean, you can get it to rank fairly easily and fairly quickly.
Gotcha. That's awesome. So let's dive into a little bit of Instagram. You're talking and saying that you're kind of an expert in Instagram. What are some tips and tricks that you can share with our audience about Instagram? Okay,
so for my own personal Instagram, I've been testing it out quite a bit lately. And, I've got about 13,500 followers, and I have kind of stayed around that mark for a little bit, and actually I was noticing people were dropping off, and I thought that's so strange because I'm not posting that often. I actually was posting maybe once a month, once every 2 weeks at the most. So I was like, why am I losing followers when I'm obviously not like annoying them with my content? I'm like, that doesn't it just seems weird to me, because I don't know, I'm too lazy to go through and like erase people from my like ghost followers or whatever to erase that. So I was like, why are people like erasing me from who they're following? But it really actually does matter how often you post. So this year, since January, I've actually been posting, trying to post more often. And then during the summer, I've actually increased it to at least once a day. And I've been adding relevant hashtags to everything that I'm posting and to my personal brand. And then I've gone out and liked the pictures that are on those same hashtags. I've gone through and commented on certain people's photos that are including those hashtags in there, and just tried to engage with people that are using these similar hashtags to my brand and my audience. And it's crazy how quickly my Instagram followers are growing just by simply posting more often and being a little bit more involved with people that have similar interests as me. And actually, for a while, just this last month or so, I've kind of died down on posting so often. And I've noticed like my followers weren't growing anymore. They were actually decreasing again. And then as soon as I started posting once a day again for this last week, they've actually crossed over to 13,620 or something, like I crossed over that 13.6 mark where I had been struggling. It was just kind of staying at 13.5, and it's because I stopped posting again. So post at least once a day. They say more is better, and just be a little bit more interactive with people. And it really does pay off. It's shocking.
Gotcha. Thanks. Those are awesome tips and tricks for SEO and Instagram. So thanks for sharing those with the audience. So now let's dive into one of my favorite parts of this podcast. And I don't think a lot of people like to talk about this. But like, what is a marketing campaign, Nicole, that you ran and it actually failed?
Oh my gosh. I won't lie. There are so many, because I mean, marketing is hard. And when you are more freelance like we are, you have these different clients that come to you with completely different businesses, and you have to become an expert in them and in their audience so quickly that it doesn't always work out. And sometimes you're also just not a perfect fit for what they want. Sometimes marketing is just really not going to help them because they have a bad product. So really where I've seen the most failure, though, I'll be honest, is when I don't communicate with my clients, which I know is something that I'm not great at. But that's where I see, the failure in things. Because if I talk to them a little bit more, I could learn more about their business. I can learn more about, their audience and who they're really wanting to target and what they want to put out there. And these campaigns that we build would be much more successful. So my biggest flop is definitely, we had a client last year and he was very hard to get a hold of in general, but I also just kind of let it go because I was like, well, if he doesn't feel like this is a priority or anything, then I'll just wait for him to reach out. He's busy and I will just keep myself busy doing, kind of these more side projects. I wasn't working on a side project, but I was working on these smaller things that needed to be done because I wasn't getting any direction from him. I had things that needed to be approved that I was waiting on before we could take the next steps. And he wasn't making it a priority. He had things going on in his personal life, which, I mean, I understand. But, if I had just called him and said, hey, I need this done so that we can do X, Y, and Z, it would have been much better than me just sending an email and saying like, hey, still waiting on this. So instead of, really taking command of the situation, I just kind of let it be on his terms and did these other things that were kind of not necessarily needing to be done. They were more options for him. We were writing video scripts. And so I just kept writing new scripts because I was waiting on him to give me feedback on them. So I was like, well, I'll write another one while I wait. And he was just like, I don't want these. Like, I don't, when he finally had time to sit down, he was just like, this just isn't working out because we're not really on the same page. We're not really doing the same thing. I'm too busy. He was like, I don't need these extra video scripts. I haven't even reviewed the first one, and it was all just down to poor communication and 100% on my part that I could have absolutely done better. So that's the biggest thing that I see with me and with other marketers in the business is like, just talk to your clients way more often and build that relationship with them. And it actually does make a massive difference. And even if you struggle with their campaigns, as long as you're talking to them all the time and learning more and trying to fix the problem, you can keep them a lot longer and possibly even long enough to find something that really does work.
Gotcha. So that's your biggest takeaway over the whole thing then, just communication, making sure you communicate with your clients then?
Yeah, communicate with them, because when we lost that client, he was like, I don't feel like I got my money's worth. And it was really like, I mean, it was kind of like a punch to the gut because I was like, oh, I get where he's coming from, but I also hate that I underperformed. I hate that he didn't think that we were doing a good job or that I was, or you know what I mean? I was like, oh, that sucks. Like that. I hate when people feel like they've wasted their money or their time or anything like that. So it was rough. That was definitely not a great one. But in fairness, he also is not doing anything with that business. I've noticed, I've checked up, and that business isn't even happening anymore. So I think he didn't have the greatest product either.
Gotcha. Cool. So yeah, guys, just listen up to Nicole, keep in touch with your clients, get on the phone with them. That will definitely help maintain those relationships. I can definitely say for me as well, going over to their business, talking with them weekly, making sure you're in contact with them, that's definitely going to help you retain your clients. So next thing, let's dive into Nicole. What was like your first little like online marketing success? You said you came from no background of marketing. You started learning. What was like that little thing that just set you off and made you go, I love online marketing?
So I think the first real like success that I saw was it was actually something that we worked on together, and I won't name the company by name, but it was the chocolate company that we were marketing for. And I remember us breaking down the numbers, and we were getting signups to their list at, I think it was like $3.50 a sign up. And then we were getting conversions at $14. And I think we dropped them down to about $7 as well for actual like purchases of their product. And they had a pretty expensive product. And that was something that we were like, this is incredible, because I think their conversion, I think they wanted to be at about $50 per conversion, if I'm not wrong. And I think it even went up towards 100 because people typically bought more because they got free shipping. But that was really the first thing that I saw that I was like, oh, wow, like this is actually working. And this is actually pretty cool. Like I actually feel a little bit more confident in my skill and the actual job that I'm doing. And I kind of understand the whole, how do I even phrase it? Like the whole plan of marketing, you know, because we were doing everything for that client, from their website to social media to content to their ads and their email campaign, just all of it. And so really watching people respond to the ads that you and I were both working on and the email campaigns that we worked on and everything like that, and actually turn into conversions, and to actually watch that number drop and watch that number grow. It was actually really one of the first times with a client that I had seen that type of conversion, and especially at that level. But that was also very early on in like my marketing career. So it was kind of one of the first times I'd actually really seen marketing, you know, really seen what marketing can do, what online marketing is capable of, and actually see results from it.
Gotcha. So tell the audience a little bit what we were doing to get those conversions. Kind of, if you could talk about the lead magnet that we were using.
So I know on Facebook we had done some promoted articles and just tried to educate them because they were a sugar-free chocolate company. They were great for diabetics, everything like that. So it was really about educating them about why their product was better than the other ones, and how it actually tasted way better, because a lot of sugar-free chocolate is garbage. And in fairness, they had a great product. So we tried to educate people a little bit, and those performed, you know, a little bit with getting clicks to their site and everything. But really, we ran ads that just asked for signups to their you know, their I don't want to say the actual name that they used because there's still a company out there, but to their email list, where they received 15% off their first purchase. And people, I mean, it really resonated with people. They received that discount immediately, and they went and purchased chocolate. And then from there, we sent out promotions every 2 weeks. And every time, you know, we sent a promotion or even just an email in general to their list, people, you know, it brought people back to like, oh yeah, I signed up for this chocolate. I really like their chocolate. I'm going to order more. So really, it's like that cliche saying like the money's in the list, but it really was. So we were just driving traffic to these sign up forms. And then from there, we were just sending out promotions. They would be 10%. They would be free shipping sometimes. Sometimes they would just be an educational email, and people took action. Awesome.
Yeah, so just a recap on that. Basically, we ran a Facebook ad to we drove them back to a landing page, just giving them 20% off, and then we were email blasting them every 2 weeks. So it's a super little simple Facebook funnel that you guys can test out for your guys' products and your company. So diving into the next thing, Nicole, so what was your grand slam? What was the big thing where you're like, okay, I can do this? What was your grand slam for success?
So interestingly enough, it comes back to Facebook ads and the email campaign. Not with that same company though. We had a addiction recovery center, and I think the biggest grand slam that I've seen so far is I decided to reach out to people that were struggling with addiction. I decided that, you know, we needed to create something for them that inspired them, some kind of a simple download. And I thought, you know, people are really into affirmations right now. So I created like a simple PDF page of 10 or 12 affirmations and built out a Facebook ad for that. Just said like, hey, download these affirmations if you're struggling with some kind of an addiction, some kind of substance abuse. And we were struggling to get leads for them at about $100 per lead. And I set these up and they ran over the weekend. And when we checked in on them Monday morning, they had over 300 downloads already. And they were converting at about $7 per download. So, I mean, it was huge. Now, granted, a lot of them didn't quite fit their demographic because they were very, well, I won't say their demographic, but they were very strict on what insurances they could take. So you kind of had to weed through them. But I think the reason that was the most like successful campaign that I've done is because I was able to take that and use it with other companies. So I've got a probiotic company that's all about making you feel good about yourself and take care of your health and everything. And we were able to take a similar concept of those affirmations and use it for them and get them signups on their list. And I was able to use it for another addiction company. And so the reason I feel like it was my most successful is because I found something that works and that resonates with pretty much everybody out there in some way. And then you just have to take what works and tailor it for these other audiences and these other companies that you're marketing for, which is essentially what we're always taught to do with marketing. It's like, find what works, like find a landing page for another company that's working, find another website or another company that's doing really well, and then just copy what they do. You know, that's what everyone tells you to do. So I just happened to find something that worked really well, which were these affirmation downloads. And then I was able to take them and use them for, you know, other companies and other topics. And I think right now we're getting signups at $4 for another company, and they aren't restricted with, you know, certain insurances or anything like that. So, you know, they get signups to their list at $4, and then we just nurture them with an email campaign afterwards.
That's awesome. So overall, like, what's your biggest takeaway then from this experience?
I mean, honestly, just start creating affirmations. No, that's not going to work for everyone. But you kind of have to look at your audience and think, like, what do they need? What are they struggling with? And so many people, for me, it was so many people that struggle with addiction think that they can beat it on their own and they don't need help, or they just need a little bit of support from somebody in their life or something like that. And it does come back to, like, they have to change their own lifestyle and their own attitude by themselves. So I was like, well, I need to give these people a resource for that. Then I need to provide them with something that they can do on their own, which I think is kind of what maybe we don't forget in marketing, because we're always thinking about, like, who's the audience. But I think too often we look at our audience as certain demographics. You know, we're like, oh, they're 35, they're female, they're whatever, versus like actually trying to put ourselves like in our audience's shoes and think, like, how do I feel if I was this person? Like, what am I struggling with? What do I want? What do I want to see? What's something that I'm actually going to click on? Because I think as marketers, we get too in our heads about things, or sometimes we're too close to the picture and we'll be like, this headline is great. I think it's super funny. But that, just because you have a funny headline doesn't mean it's going to resonate with somebody. So I think really trying to put yourself in the shoes of your audience and figuring out their needs and then tailoring some kind of resource for them is really what we should all be doing in marketing.
Awesome. I like that. Take a step back and then figure out what your audience would look at, you know, taking a step back. So good advice from Nicole on that. So diving into our next section, Nicole, what advice would you give to any online marketing company in the world? Like, what would it be and why? So, I mean, I've kind of already said it like previously, but I mean, communication is huge. And I think I think communication has to be within the company. And I also think it has to be between the marketer and the company that they're working for, which sounds complicated now, now that I say it. But I mean, you have to build a relationship with your client. And then you and the other marketers that you work with, if you work as a team or if you have a boss, you guys all need to communicate. And then also that company they're marketing for, they need to have communication within their team as well. Because I know that's something we've both struggled with, is we have a company and we have to answer to, there's 4 people at that company
that are all dealing with us and trying to tell us different things, and they aren't communicating with each other. And your job as a marketer gets really confusing when the company that you're working for isn't communicating. You're like, what am I supposed to market when you guys are all telling me different things? So really, communication is huge. If you're a company, if you're a marketing company, you need to make sure that you communicate with all of your employees and your coworkers, and you need to make sure that the companies that you're selecting for your employees are quality companies, because I mean, it's just a fact. Not every company out there is going to make it. Not everyone has $1 million idea. Not everyone is ready for online marketing, but they reach out to you because they think you can do these, magical things. And in the first month, they're going to be making tens of thousands of dollars. And that's not how marketing works. So, really choose the companies you're going to market for carefully, and make sure that they're put together and they can communicate well, and that you communicate with them.
Awesome.
That was kind of rambly, but
no, that's definitely good advice. Making sure you're a good fit, don't take on just any client.
Yeah.
Cause I personally feel like if every online marketing company out there was just pulling on every single client that knocked on their door, like, they're not always a good fit, and it technically can create a bad rep for us online marketers. Right. So I think it's, really important that, as online marketing people, we make sure that we're bringing on clients that are definitely a good fit for us. So I definitely think that's some good advice.
And that's what happened with the guy that I talked about earlier, that was just like the worst campaign that I've run. It was just a failure because we never got anywhere with it, because he was not in a stage to even start marketing or even build a website. He didn't have actually a solid business plan. He had some ideas of what he wanted to do with this content that he had created, but he wasn't even sure which direction he wanted to go. I mean, he was in no place to reach out to a marketing company at that point. And I think eventually he figured it out, because like I've said, I've checked up on his stuff, and it's not even, I mean, he doesn't even have a website. He hasn't done anything on social media. So I don't think he ever went that route. And so it was hard to work with him because he just wasn't ready for marketing at all. And I just didn't know how to help him. So I just kind of avoided the situation rather than like getting on the phone and talking to him and being like, hey, here's what you have to do in order to be ready for us. So yeah, really make sure, be a little bit picky. I know everyone wants money and they want to help people, but be a little bit picky when you're picking your clients, because, we didn't end things badly with this guy, but he clearly didn't feel like he got his money's worth. And that's fair, but that's also just because we shouldn't have ever brought him on in the first place when he didn't have a solid business like ready to go. So just
gotcha.
Be
No, amen to that one. Amen to that one. So next thing, Nicole, is there any updates that you'd like to share with our audience, like as far as in the industry, anything coming up?
Oh gosh. I don't have any like updates that I know of off the top of my head. I will say one thing for if you're trying to grow your Instagram or your Twitter, I don't know why those are the only two options that they have right now, but if you're wanting to grow those, in addition to just being active and interacting with others on those platforms, there's a tool called RoboLike. I've used it for years, and for a while it was a little bit like dodgy and it wasn't great, but it seems like they've kind of fixed their algorithm now. It's like $8 a month, and basically all it does is it goes out and likes photos or likes statuses that have certain hashtags in them. You get to choose the hashtags. It's unlimited. You just throw in I believe it's unlimited. I've never hit a limit. Throw in a ton of hashtags that are relevant to you and your brand. And all this does is go out and like those photos and those statuses. So it's not leaving comments. It's not doing anything. So you have that weird thing where somebody posts something sad and you post like a smiley face or like a really awkward good job. that doesn't make any sense, because I've seen those tools and they're not great. This one just goes out and like favorites the post, which is great. And those people notice that you're somebody new. They're like, this is somebody that I don't know about, like who's liking my stuff, and they come check your profile out and then they follow you. So that's like a really awesome tool. And they've actually kind of fixed all the glitches that were in it. And it seems to be working really well. We've used it on a couple of our clients lately, and it's cheap. And it's not following anyone. It's not doing anything like that. It's just liking the post. It's super simple.
Awesome. Sounds good. What was that called again? Robo-like? Cool.
Yep, Robo-like.
So yeah, guys, go check that out. Robo-like. Get some more engagement on Instagram and Twitter. Just have the little robot do it for you. So diving into our last little thing, Nicole, couple more questions.
Okay.
What do you see people doing wrong in the industry as far as SEO goes? What are some bad SEO things going on?
I think the biggest thing is people aren't spending the time. And like I said, I've been guilty of it, where you're like, I just need to post. So you just kind of write something. Maybe you don't even look at revisions. You just kind of almost stream of conscious, just get it written out and then post it. And it's maybe 300 words or less. And it's like, just spend, like I said, an extra 10 minutes, go through, make sure that you have, 1 to 3% of your content is your keyword. Make sure that you have your headline and your H2 and H3s in there. Make sure that it's actually quality content, that it's actually something somebody is going to spend the time reading, and make sure that your tags and your meta description are in there. It's super simple, but it's something that I think people rush, or maybe they aren't good at content. And so they don't want to spend the time on it because it takes a long time, it's boring, whatever. But really, just an extra 10 minutes will change the game.
Awesome. Okay, Nicole, you said it best. SEO, she's like your queen of SEO and all your tips and tricks. So last thing, our speed round.
All right.
So what are some of the things you do for fun, Nicole?
The things I do for fun. I hang out with my dog like all the time. He's fun. I do art, like drawings and paintings, and I watch a lot of Netflix.
Awesome. What's your favorite marketing book?
My favorite is actually something that you can just get off of Google. It's called the One Sentence Persuasion. It's like a 13-page PDF by Blair Warren. You can just Google it. It's right there. It's great. It's one of those things that's going to help you write your USP and really help with your content on your website and your ads and everything like that. So One Sentence Persuasion.
Awesome. Go check that book out. So favorite thing about online marketing?
Honestly, my favorite thing about it, there are ebbs and flows with this job. I mean, sometimes it's great and sometimes you are just a ball of anxiety. But my favorite thing is when you find something that works, or when you see the cost of your conversions dropping, and you just have this sense of like pride, and like it's just like the most, like it's the best feeling when you find something that works, because you're like, yes, finally I did it. And you have like the stress is off of you for, I mean, a little bit. You obviously have to monitor things and do other things now, but just that feeling of like when it clicks and you're like, I got it. I found the right audience. I found the right message. Like just that moment is my favorite thing. Awesome.
Favorite marketing podcast? It's this one, right? I'm
Absolutely.
Just kidding.
It's this one. No, I think the only one I really listen to is the Digital Marketer one.
Perpetual Traffic,
yeah,
with Keith Krantz, Molly Pittman, and Ralph Burns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I listened to that one too. Highly recommend it as well.
Yeah.
Favorite online marketing tool?
Like seriously, analytics. It's like, it's free and it's the greatest. Like check your analytics with everything. Instagram gives you analytics. That's super fun to watch. And then just your Google Analytics. I love watching like, okay, this person sat on this page for this long, or these people did, or, you know, we've gained 200 new visits to the site this month. And I really like seeing all the numbers and having it broken down, and it's free. It's the best.
Awesome. What advice would you give every marketer in the world?
Communicate. Seriously, communicate.
Communication is key by Nicole.
Man, because here's the thing. I'm like a ball of anxiety all the time. I don't like conference calls. I hate it. I get stressed out anytime I have to have a phone call with anyone because I want to have the answer for any question that they're going to ask, which is impossible. I don't know what they're going to ask. They can ask anything, but I always want to have the answer ready. So I get very nervous and I have a lot of anxiety about the unknown. And so I'm really bad where I'm like, I will just avoid things. And I've been doing better with not avoiding things and just actually communicating with my clients. And it makes the world of difference because when you're actually communicating with them, they're not going to ask you random questions because they already have these answers because you've already talked to them. So really, just communicate. Pick up the phone and talk to your client. It'll be fine.
Great advice, Nicole, the communication queen. So last question for the day. What have you learned outside of marketing about marketing? So you phrased this question. What have you learned about marketing outside of marketing?
I did. This was one of mine. And the thing that, I mean, really, because I'm such like a media junkie and I'm always watching like YouTube stuff and I'm always watching Netflix and I'm always looking for entertainment. I pick up a lot of things just, because it's my job. And so I just notice things. But one of the biggest things that I've learned just watching like YouTube videos and social media influencers is they collaborate with people. And it's really just taught me a lot about how to brand yourself. Like, they're not out selling themselves out. They're doing things that are relevant to their audience. They're doing things that will increase their audience. They're collaborating with other people in their field to help boost each other up. And they're just staying on brand. So really, I mean, that's what I've learned the most is just picking up these weird tips from social media influencers, just like collaborate, look for other influencers, feed off of each other. Look for somebody that's at your level. If you're just starting out, look for somebody else that's just starting out and try to use each other's audience because even if they only have 200 followers, you only have 200 followers. So, trade up those 200 followers, try and get a couple more. If you have 5,000, look for somebody with 5,000. Just reach out to people and try to collaborate a bit more.
Awesome. Great advice. So Nicole, for anybody that's listening, where can they find you at?
Oh gosh, they can find me at Instagram at Rooted Not Ginger with no E in ginger. That's also where you can find me on Twitter. It's the same. And actually where you can find me on Facebook as well. See, I just branded myself with the same handle on all social media.
Good job, Nicole. You're killing it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thanks, Nicole, for being on the show. And if you guys have any questions for Nicole, you can reach out to her, or you can always message me, Taylor Timothy, and peace. Thanks, guys, for listening. Just a little recap for you guys. As far as SEO goes, follow her little tips and tricks. The one thing she really hounded on with SEO is spending extra time on your blogs just to make sure you have all the proper keywords and headlines in there. Don't slack off on this. She talked a lot about Instagram and being consistent. Be consistent with your posting. Don't ever stop posting on Instagram. It's just going to hurt you in the long run. The little Facebook funnel that we talked about, create an ad that asks people to give their email to get a discount code for your product or service. And then after that, hit them every 2 weeks with an email sequence. That's a little test for you guys that you can do on Facebook. And then communicate with your clients. Don't be afraid to reach out to them if you're struggling. They're there and you need to help them. That's your job as a marketer. Go help your clients, communicate with them, and help them get the results that they're looking for. So thanks again, episode number 3. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and peace.